Hello, my name is Christian Alexandro Sotomayor Don Juan. I'm a student of 5th semester studying at Tech Milenio, and today I'm going to talk about the Cold War, a politic and ideological conflict between the Soviet Union and the United States, event that happened between 1947 and 1991. Many consider its beginning as the creation of the Marshall Plan and instauration of the Truman Doctrine during June 5th of 1947. The Marshall Plan wanted to restore the entirety of Europe after World War II was over, since it left Europe in a devastated situation with many economies and governments greatly affected and with a miserable social situation in which many were killed. Many European countries decided to join the plan, and were granted around $13 billion by the United States. The plan was constituted on the Truman Doctrine, which was against communist regimes and in favor of democratic ideas, and so most of the communist and socialist European powers such as the Soviet Union refused it, beginning a constant rivalry between those countries with democratic and capitalist ideas and those with communist and socialist ideas. The first event later sparked others, such as the creation of the treaty imposed by the United States known as NATO in 1949, which was against the ideas of the rising power that was the Soviet Union, forcing the Soviet Union itself to create its own treaty against the United States and its allies known as the Treaty of Warsaw. Many parallel armed conflicts such as the War of Vietnam from 1955 to 1975 and the Korean War are also considered part of the Cold War, since both powers of the United States and the Soviet Union or its allies participated in them. Also, during the Cold War, both world powers wanted to prove they were better and more powerful than the other, trying to innovate in the creation of new weapons and stronger armies, as well as trying to make advancements such as those made during the space race won by the United States with the landing of man in the moon in 1979. The ending of the Cold War is marked in 1989 after the fall of the Berlin Wall, which was a clear proof of the ending of most communist countries and prevalent socialist ideas. The United States and the Soviet Union officially ended the rivalry in December 2nd. As already mentioned, it was a conflict whose main two participants were the two world powers of the Soviet Union and the United States, both of which were trying to impose their political and ideological interests in the rest of the world and gaining as much power as possible in other countries. However, this was a conflict in which armed forces weren't the central point but rather the imposition of their systems and ideas. The time this conflict lasted is known as the period of bipolarity, since their ideas were completely opposite and they wanted to do different things to the world, but each one had its own allies that began adopting political, social, and economic systems like those in each one. At the time of the conflict, the Soviet Union was the largest country in existence, with over 100 different nationalities living there. It had an authoritarian political system and a centralized government. Its economy was based on socialist ideas, supposedly based on the benefit of most people about the repartition of goods in equal parts with the entirety of the population, but towards its history it caused plenty of distribution and production problems. The United States had a democratic political system led by the president and tried to seek for the benefit of its inhabitants, so in social aspects it was relatively good. Its economy was based on capitalist ideas, production of goods, and commerce between several countries. Socialism, or the economic system supported by the Soviet Union, was proposed in the 19th century by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, in which property and administration of goods are collectively done in order to make most of the people have similar or equal economic conditions. Under these ideas, the state must have a total control over the means of production and regulate their distribution, while at the same time limiting the existence of private property and not letting the general population participate in economic matters. Capitalism, or the economic system supported by the United States, was created in the Middle Ages, and many argue that it had its origins in feudalism, but it was given a name and described as a system by the economist Adam Smith. It proposes the existence of private property, or that certain goods and production methods must be owned by specific people and not by the government, and that the market should be free and not controlled by the government, proposing that regulation of production and distribution by the government usually results in serious disadvantages for the economy. The main objective of capitalism is the accumulation of goods and capital, usually expressed in money or ownership of certain things. The production of means is usually done by the law of offer and demand. In other words, as more people want a product or good, more of it should be produced and vice versa. Now, I'm going to show the interview that I made to a person that knows a lot about the Cold War, my grandfather Fernando Don Juan, born in 1949, who not only grew up in the period but also has read many articles on the topic. This was his interview.
Al término de la Segunda Guerra Mundial, en realidad quedaron dos grandes potencias, que es Estados Unidos y la Unión Soviética. Como tenían tanto poder, empezaron a querer dominar el mundo y entonces se dividieron en dos grandes grupos, los socialistas, los capitalistas, y esto fue el principio de lo que se le llamó la Guerra Fría. Pues fue principalmente debido a la presión social, porque por un lado estaba el bloque comunista queriendo imponer en los países cercanos su doctrina, y por el otro lado estaba Estados Unidos, que también hacía, a base de tratados, a base de convenios de final de guerra, estuvo formando el bloque occidental, que se le llamaba bloque occidental y bloque oriental, y entonces, debido a la presión social de que unos querían el capitalismo y otros el socialismo, también fue un detonante para la llamada Guerra Fría. Pues básicamente fue un conflicto entre la Unión Soviética y Estados Unidos, aunque se vieron envueltos algunos otros países, por ejemplo de este lado Estados Unidos y Canadá. Del otro lado, pues recuerdo que era la Unión Soviética, y por ahí hay algún otro país que también quedó fuerte después de la Segunda Guerra Mundial, pero básicamente fue Estados Unidos y Rusia. Pues la verdad, la opinión pública estaba muy dividida. Durante esa Guerra Fría pasaron muchas cosas que entraban en conflicto y dividían a la gente. Por ejemplo, de un lado, cuando Rusia mandó el primer cosmonauta alrededor de la Tierra, Estados Unidos se dio prisa y mandó a alunizar, que es algo que se recuerda mucho. Pero por parte de Estados Unidos pues está la guerra de Vietnam, que también dejó mucho odio en casi todo el mundo. Pero en realidad la opinión pública estuvo muy dividida. En lo que respecta a las armas, pues gracias, entre comillas, a la Guerra Fría, el armamento se desarrolló muy pronto. Por ejemplo, básicamente eran las armas nucleares, que cada día cada quien inventaba una más fuerte, la bomba de hidrógeno. Se inventaron las AK-47, también los tanques, los submarinos tuvieron mucha presencia. O sea, todo lo que es el armamento, como cada quien tenía que bloquearse, fue creciendo más sofisticado.
In conclusion, the Cold War was a unique conflict for world's history, since it wasn't based on brutal force or violence, but rather on the ideological and political rivalry between two opposing forces, which were the United States and the Soviet Union, along with the allies of each one. Many considered that the Cold War could have caused a third world war, but it didn't, and it had many positive effects in my opinion, such as the advancements of science and the moon landing. Also, thanks to it, capitalism is a predominant economic system thanks to which people can accumulate goods and wellness by their hard effort, and the government not necessarily controls the production and distribution of things, all of which wouldn't be possible if communism and socialism were still predominant, as the government will control the means of production and repress many citizens of countries. And although communism and socialism are not necessarily unfair or ineffective, some things such as the equality in the social distribution of goods, which sound good in concept, they both have proved to be hard to implement and less effective than capitalism in many aspects. Thank you.